It's fantastic to be here today and tell you a little bit about PsiQuantum. So I only have 10 minutes. And so what I thought I'd do is talk a little bit about the company, a little bit about where we're at, a little bit about what we plan to do here in Brisbane, and finish on some workforce slides. So I'll go quite quickly, but please grab me afterwards if you have any questions. So PsiQuantum as a company, we've been around for a little while now. We're about 500 people. But I think what makes us unique is that we only have one mission, and that's just to build a useful quantum computer. That's all we spend all our time on, that's all we do, and if it falls under that scope, we work on it. So we work from the kind of kilometer scale down to the Armstrong scale. And so it's really exciting to work at a kind of organization that kind of spreads that breadth. So there's a picture of us, I think maybe 3 months ago. So why quantum computing? So I won't give the pitch here, but essentially I think the world is ready for reinvention for all of the industries that you see on this slide. And it's really to do with that the foundation of small atom chemistry and mathematics underpins a lot of our world's biggest industries, and quantum computing is well poised to solve that. And I think, as our CEO says, like, if you cannot model the world around you, how can you hope to engineer the world that you want to see? And so essentially, I think we're just trying to build a computer for chemistry, which I think is one of the first use cases. But why don't we have those applications? So on this slide, we see two examples. So up the top is like current quantum computers. And so for instance, the result out of Google last week, fantastic scientific result, like from a few days ago, we tip our hat to that, and it's fantastic effort. But those have hundreds of qubits. Why is that a problem? Is because they have fidelities of like maybe 99.9%. And they can do kind of like thousands of gates before they start to fail. But what you need down the bottom is you need 99.9999999% quality qubits. And you need to go from the qubits we have today to that quality, and that's where you need error correction. And when you do that, you don't need hundreds of qubits, you need more like 1 million. And that's where the useful applications are. And as an organization, that's what we've been focused on for the last 9 years now. And when you take that seriously, when you want to try to build a big machine with 1 million qubits, it really turns to kind of like an engineering challenge. The human race today can build great qubits in every type of qubit you like. It's fantastic. Like 20 years ago, that was not the case. But nowadays, everyone's got great qubits. And we think that photonics, which is our particular qubit, has great advantages when you want to scale up. I could talk on this slide for many hours. I don't have that time today. But instead, I just want to talk about one, which is like manufacturing. And so our aim at PsiQuantum is to leverage the $1 trillion of investment into the semiconductor industry, which there's been many talk about that already here today. And so a quick map of our quantum computer, and I'm going to go from the Armstrong scale to the 100-meter scale, is we use these photonic components that are very common in like other industries, and we needed to make them maybe 1,000x or 100x better than what you could buy off the shelf. So that's what we kind of worked on. And we make these components in semiconductor wafers. That's what we want to do. And we recently published a result in Nature showing that most of that material science is behind us, and we've got our world-leading performance on all of these required components. Then we want everything to start to look very boring from here on out. No circles, no chandeliers, no science experiments. We want it to be rectangular, we want it to be copper, we want it to be PCBs, and we want it to look like the kind of parts you'd see in a data center. So here's an example of one such assembly. And then we're going to take pics, we're going to put them in these assemblies. Then we're going to put them in just racks. That's the plan. A wrinkle in that plan is that one of our components has to be the temperature of deep space. So we have to cool them down to about 4 Kelvin. And so there we need cryogenics. So as a company, as well as inventing the photonics, we've invented a new class of cryogenics. And we've shown that that works. And we're just going to put these assemblies in these racks, in these big kind of data center size cabinets that weigh a handful of tons. And so here's one that was commissioned at the Stanford Linear Accelerator, just down the road from our headquarters. And that's got about 30 watts of cooling power at 4 Kelvin. And then what we want to do is take, roughly about 100 of those and kind of tile a factory. That's basically the plan. And we want it to be table stakes with every vendor that we work with in order to build the number that we require. And just to give you a sense of kind of where we're at, we've built and tested around 15 million components on the far end of this slide, and we've built a handful of these cabinets. And so far we have 0 quantum computers. So we still have some kind of work to do there. And there's a picture of the site, which I'll show you in just a second. So here's a video of kind of how that comes together. So this is kind of what we're going to tile the kind of factory with. And so we start with our wafers, where we produce these kind of lithographically. We need, kind of like hundreds of these kind of for our kind of Gen 1 machine. Our photons and our qubits fly along on waveguides on these wafers. We can kind of fit like hundreds of those components per die. And then we're going to build those assemblies. They're rectangular. One end is going to be really cold. And then we're going to network them together with optical fiber. And we've shown kind of 99.99% kind of interconnecting. We can do that at room temperature. That's one of our advantages. And then just keep building these things and just fill it up. And so as a company, this is, I think, if you were to measure our progress, it's just how quickly can we fill these things up. That's where we're at today. So hopefully every time you hear me talk, I tell you that we've filled up more of these things. So a little bit about our plan here in Brisbane. So here's a photo that I took flying to Cairns. And that's the site just there. It's opposite the kind of international terminal. The quantum computing floor is really large. Kind of pick your favorite code, either the Lions or the other code. And it's kind of like 2 kind of stadiums in kind of size, with about the same kind of power draw and water draw as kind of a medium-sized kind of data center. So it's a relatively large piece of kit. And so there's a picture here. What you see on the left is our big refrigerator. So this gives you about 20 kilowatts of cooling power. This is the LCLS2 cryo plant. That's at SLAC. And the human race knows how to build these. They're kind of turnkey. There's about 20 of them around CERN. So you cut a big check and you go and see them. And you say, I'd like a cryo plant, please. And we're very proud to announce that we've done that. So we've ordered this cryo plant, one that's very similar to this. It's going to come down the Brisbane River there, and we're going to put it on that site. So we're really proud to work with Lindy, who's one of these 2 suppliers, and they're building our cryo plant right now. So here's a render of what that looks like. We work with Jacobs, who's our master engineer, and we work with Lend-Lease, who's going to be helping us build this. And this is a render of what it looks like. This doesn't show the complexity and work that's been done. So like on the inside, we've got like where the cabling goes, where the water goes, where the layout goes. So all that work is being done. And yeah, we're really hoping to break ground on that site very quickly. Time check, how long do I have? Yeah, perfect. So that's a very quick summary. Please come and see me afterwards. PsiQuantum, we have a reputation of maybe being a little secretive. We're not, we're just very busy. And so please just come and talk to us. We're very friendly. We have an office down there on Ann Street. Please, you can see some of these parts. So please reach out. So here's a segue into the workforce. So how I think about the quantum workforce for us is maybe 3 buckets. One is people who are going to build the quantum computer. That's people like me. Then there's people who are going to kind of program the quantum computer. That's not me. And there are people who are going to use the quantum computer. That's definitely not me. And I think what you see underneath each of these are examples of the kinds of technical people that we require in each of these domains. And so we'll talk a little bit more about this on the panel, but focusing on the first block, which is the block that I have the most experience with. Really, a big part of it is cryogenics and water flow and mining equipment and pipes and like megawatts of power. And so we need people like that. And luckily, Australia is really good at building big industrial things for resources. So hopefully we can get people like that to come and work with us. Then we need like engineers, essentially. Engineers of your favorite type. And I think the one thing I'll say here is I think the word quantum is really unhelpful in this conversation. We just need great electrical engineers, great technicians, great cryostat engineers, great welders, great builders, like 80% of our staff are engineers, not annoying quantum PhDs like me. And so with that, I don't want to speak more about the workforce because we have a panel on that in just a second, but I'll finish on kind of this slide. So PsiQuantum, we're relatively, we have our roots here in Australia, but we haven't been back for that long. But we interact with all sorts of people across the whole kind of ecosystem here. We work with people in partnerships, so Quantum Australia today, really excited to work with those. We have software, hardware, and architecture, and really, I think this slide will continue to get filled as we start to bed in here in Brisbane and Queensland. And with that, I'll finish up. Thank you.